right, that wasn't too bad. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Senior Center. First of all, I wanted to thank James McCrae, Maria, Bernice, and Sue for helping get breakfast out to you today. And I have a few announcements before I'm going to hand it over to John. Tuesday, March 25th, we're having a special dinner here. We're celebrating Acton's 250th anniversary, so we're having Yankee pot roast. There might be some Minutemen here, and we're going to be sampling the new Isaac Davis beer. So if you haven't signed up, please sign up at the front desk. I know that got some attention. We're having a rainbow team meeting here at the Senior Center April 2nd from 2 to 3. It's going to be hybrid, so it's either in person or you could Zoom in. And again, we're looking to do some programming more inclusive with the LGBTQ community. So if that's something that you're interested in, you can let us know and we'll get you set up with that. And then we have a wonderful student, Sarah Willard, who's been with us since she was a freshman. And as her senior project this year, she's organizing a senior prom. So our senior prom will be April 8th. There'll be refreshments. She's kind of working and getting different volunteers from the schools. So there'll be some members of the band here to play your music. It should be a great event. She's making corsages and boutonnieres for everybody. So there is still room. If you're interested, please sign up at the front desk. And I have Ann Kulsick from my board, who's also on the United Way Wellness Committee. So I'm going to hand it over to her for a quick announcement.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Isn't that sun wonderful? Wow. I'm here representing the United Way, as Sharon said. I thank everyone who donated a recipe for their project for the cookbook. The cookbook is being compiled at this present time. They got about 40 recipes, and I'm happy to say that the seniors contributed most of those recipes. So good for you, and thank you again. They put everyone's name into a drawing, and the winner of that was Brenda Lenny, who is not here today, but Brenda submitted a Passover sponge cake. So that was a happy thing. And then she did get a gift certificate to the Boxborough Regency restaurant, the Minuteman. So that was a happy event for all of us. The last phase of the Nourish program for the United Way is being held on Sunday night, April 6th. It's from 5:30 to 7:30. It's in the form of a potluck, only appetizers and desserts, and it features a panel representative of the experts in town on nutrition and community dining and the ramifications it has for healthy well-being. So I do have flyers for that, and if anyone wants one, you can raise your hand, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Ann. Ann's been doing some wonderful work with us on that committee. Thank you. And now, for the star of the show, John Mangiaratti, our town manager. Thanks, John.
Hi. Thank you, Sharon. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Drive with John program. We're here with all of you this morning, and we're broadcast live. Thanks to ActonTV. Thank you, Mark, and the team. Mark is the team. Thank you, Mark. We have a lot going on here in town, so I'm excited to give you a few updates and then get to the fun part where you can ask questions and tell me some comments and things you're hearing on the streets that you want me to help you work through. So just in case you haven't seen me before, I'm the town manager. I've been working here since 2018. Before that, I worked in a few other communities, but I really love working here. Being a town manager is the coolest job you can have. It's like being a CEO of a company, but the company does so many different things that it's really entertaining and fun, and every day is a new challenge. So I appreciate the opportunity to work with all of you and for all of you. It's really an honor. We have a few special guests here today. Some you'll be hearing from. We have our fire chief, Anita Arnhem. And we have our town moderator, Joanne Berry. And so we'll have a little update from the moderator shortly, but I have a list of things to go through. So, and I missed last month, so sorry. I took a couple days off with my family. It was during school vacation, so we had a great time, and we all came back refreshed, and now we're all ready to rock and roll. So a couple things coming up next week. Just so you know, the 250th is really picking up steam. The Patriots Day is coming up, and the 250 committee has been doing a really nice job putting out programming throughout the year. They just brewed their second batch of Isaac Davis Brown Ale, which is a beer made by a local brewery in Littleton called Dirigible. If you like brown ale, it's really good, and even if you don't, it's worth trying, because it's kind of cool that Acton has its own beer. So I encourage you to check that out. I think they have it at local package stores. If not, let me know and I can help you find it. We also, so the 250 committee is also doing a 250th anniversary themed dinner here on the 25th. So that's very soon. So if you don't know about that, hopefully you want to go, sign up. Maybe talk to the desk on your way out. There's also a program on March 31st called Spies and Military Intelligence. That'll be at the town hall at 7 o'clock, so check that out. Many of you have done the Citizens Police Academy at the police department. They're running another session the first week of April, which is very soon. So if you want to do it, or if you know someone that you think should check it out, have them contact the police department or me if that's easier, and we'll get you signed up. It's pretty cool. I think it's 6 or 7 weeks, and you go to the police department every week and learn about everything they do. So it's a cool experience that I encourage residents to check out if they have time. Our fire department, led by Chief Arnhem, has been doing some really innovative things, and one of them is to try what it's like to work out of different fire stations. As you know, and thank you for your support, we built a new fire station in North Acton in 2021 and put it into service the following year. And it's really been a huge benefit to North Acton, which has grown a lot in the last 30 years and didn't have a fire station. But now that we have 4 fire stations, we've identified a few concerns as it relates to responses and operations and recruitment and retention, et cetera. And so the chief and the department worked with us to develop a program where they're running actually only out of 2 stations right now. Hopefully you didn't even notice the difference. So that was the goal. Since February 1st or so, 10th, they've been running out of just North Acton on Harris Street and South Acton on School Street. And they basically took the people that were in those other stations and the apparatus that were in those other stations and put them strategically in those 2 locations. And as far as I can tell, it's been going really well. The groups are working together more closely instead of being spread out through town. And the response times haven't been impacted in any significant way, but they have been impacted in the fact that now we have a group of people going to a scene at the same time, instead of having 2 people going there and having to wait for the rest of the people to get there. So it's been an improvement. It's a pilot program. We're only doing it for 3.5 months. In May, before Memorial Day, we're going to go back to the old way, or the former way, and take some time to figure out how it worked out and get some feedback from the public. We'll be doing a public survey, which we encourage you to fill out, or you can just email or call us or talk to the chief or to me if you have feedback you want to give us. And then we'll decide what to do moving forward. Like everything, we always try to find ways to improve the way we provide our services to the community to make them most effective and most cost effective. And this is just another example. So if you want to check out more information, we actually have a website that's been dedicated to it. If you go to actonma.gov/fire, it'll get you right there. So check that out if you'd like. We have some new businesses in town that I encourage you to check out. Velvet Vine Cafe on Great Road, Silver Girl Restaurant on Arlington Street in West Acton. And we have 3 ribbon cuttings coming up in the next few weeks for a few more locations, which I didn't write down, but I'll, when the moderator's talking, I'll find them and remind you what they all are. I have some roadwork updates. You love to hear about roadwork, right? Yes, I knew it. That would be always a crowd pleaser. Really good news for folks that come up here about Sudbury Road. Yeah, see? So I'll start with the good news, bad news. The good news is that we're doing Sudbury Road paving this spring, maybe early summer, I don't know. Sometime, yeah, before, no, paving, repaving it. Yeah, it's seen its day. But because of all the construction on Powder Mill Road related to the sewer extension and other stuff like that, there'll be some delays, there'll be some traffic and congestion on that road down there this summer as well. So good news that we're getting the road paved over. Not so good news that there'll be some new traffic to deal with down there, but it's all worth it, right? All the traffic that we're seeing in town we're not doing that for any reason but to make this community safer, better. And I think as this starts to develop, you'll see it. Come on in, welcome. You can just stay for a few minutes. You don't have to stay the whole time. The other thing that we hear a lot about is Kelly's Corner. So Kelly's Corner is a 3.5-year project, and we're 2.5 years into it. And so it feels like it's been going on forever, but it hasn't. And it feels like it's behind schedule when it really isn't. So I appreciate your patience. They're starting to remove, finally, some of the poles on Main Street. Hopefully they'll do that within the next few weeks. Some of the specific updates, they're doing drainage structures, traffic conduits. You won't notice that probably, but they're going to start pouring concrete in the sidewalks the first week of April. So that's something that you'll notice very well. And they've done a few over near the school campus, but they'll start to pour more concrete on the sidewalks, and so it'll really start to feel more finished. It really looks incomplete right now, but it's really on its way. And again, I appreciate all of your patience through the process. And a year from now, I think about a year from now, we'll be flying through there slowly, carefully, and walking through there, enjoying everything. And it's gonna be a real improvement to the whole community, because everyone goes through there, and until now they didn't even notice. But going forward, you'll feel like you're going someplace when you go through that place. And I think it's going to be a good improvement for economic development. Let's see, some other things I have for you. We have the budget that we're working on. The select board recently approved the budget recommendation that we brought forward, so that's going to be going to town meeting. We have an election, April 29th, and we have town meeting May 5th. Town meeting will probably be 2 nights. The election will not have early voting like you've seen for the other elections, but it will have mail-in voting. So make sure that you understand your options there. If you want to go that day, on the 29th, that's always a good option, but if you want to try the mail-in, that's also available to you. We have a lot of important investments that we're making in the community with the budget, where, again, we're investing in sidewalks and traffic calming, sustainability measures. We're adding some staffing in areas of need. For many years, every time departments like the fire chief and other departments say, we really need new staffing to do what the community needs us to do, I always say, we really can't, sorry. We just can't. And in the last few years, we've done that so many times that we're at a point now where we need to add a few. So we're adding a fire prevention officer, which is going to do some really important work in the community to not just, not necessarily response activities, but prevention activities and education activities, which is an important part of the fire department that the chief and the deputy and the shift command staff do, but they don't have time to dedicate it the way that most communities have it, and we need it. So that's an important thing. We're also adding a personnel to the fire shift to improve our overtime shift and our response time. Another thing is the police department. We haven't added to the police department in many years, but the complexities of police work has increased substantially with new regulations and measures of accountability. We have a new body camera program, which has created a whole new line of work for people to manage. So a lieutenant will be brought on to help oversee all that work. And we also have everyone in the last 5 years has retired, it feels like. So we have a whole new batch of police officers. And with that, you need more supervision because you don't have people that have been doing it for 15 years. You have a bunch of people that have been less than 3 years. Having that additional supervisor is going to help make sure that we're doing things the way we're supposed to and the way that we want them to. So that's an important improvement in the budget. Other than that, we're just continuing to deliver excellent services like we always do here in this building and all the other buildings across town. I would think I'm going to take a break, and I think I hit most of the things I was supposed to say. Speaking of public works, two things about South Acton. The first is that we've been doing some planning on complete streets and how to make it safer. That intersection, we're replacing the traffic signal, which is broken, but we're also trying to make the whole intersection safer. So we're having an open house on April 3rd at 6 o'clock in Town Hall to discuss the possible street improvements in South Acton Village. So if you live there, or if you're interested in that, check that out, or maybe you can watch it online if that's easier for you. Also, that little fire station on the corner, 3 School Street, across from Exchange Hall, that's for sale if anybody wants to buy it. We're selling that again. We've tried a few times, and we have another RFP out in the street right now to see if there's someone that's interested in buying that. Again, we're always trying to find ways to be more cost effective, and holding on to old buildings like that, even though they're charming and interesting, it's just one more thing for us to have to maintain. So if we can find someone that wants to do something cool with it, that would be a win for us, because it takes the responsibility off of us, and it gives someone an opportunity to have a new business or add something to the community other than a vacant building, which doesn't really help anybody. So our 3 School Streets for sale. I think, town meeting is the most important thing that residents here have an opportunity to participate in. Job with John is important, but town meeting is, you're the legislators, and you get to go there and make legislation. So every year or every couple of years, you elect a moderator to facilitate that process for the community. And it's an elected position because it's a very important position. It has a lot of discretion over what happens at that meeting. So basically, you all make decisions on what the budget should be, what our bylaws should be, what our zoning should say, and then our moderator, Joanne Berry, is up there making sure that you all make decisions about that in a way that's orderly and in keeping with the way things are supposed to be run. And Joanne's been doing it for 5 years, and she does a great job. I've seen a lot of moderators, and she's got a lot of special skills that she brings to the role that make us very fortunate to have her as our moderator. And we're also fortunate to have her here this morning to talk a little bit about what it's like to be a moderator and anything else she wants to say. Joanne Berry.
Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me here today. Worked into my schedule that I could come over during this time. John said being town manager is the best job. Well, I like being the moderator. I think it's pretty great. I probably wouldn't want to do it every day of the week, but it's very important to me that people are able to feel like they're heard, like they've had a fair process, that, as John said, you're the legislators. You actually, it's real. The power is there in the room. And so I take it very seriously that everybody feels like it's a fair and open process, and that at the end we've come to good decisions. And second of all, I'd like to thank ActonTV. Firstly, they are at the meeting, broadcasting it out, so if you're not able to be there, you can at least see it. And also, Mark is very good with helping the presenters do the presentations, so that you can watch them ahead of time. And those could be much longer than what we'll have at town meeting, but that gives you a chance to ask questions or email into the presenters if you have questions, but to also think about it and read the warrant, see what they have to say, and see if you have questions or concerns, or you're ready to say what you need to say at town meeting. Before I forget, I will say, do try that Isaac Davis beer. I have had it; it's good. It's a nice, not too anything. It's just good. So, and it's probably around in most of the stores. What else was I going to say? So, town meeting starts May 5th. I believe we are planning to go 2 nights, and once the warrant closes today, right? Today. So we'll figure out where the split should be, where we should end Monday night and begin Tuesday, as close as we can, so that people can plan. If you can't come to both nights, or you know folks who can't come to both nights, you can decide which one is more important for you. I will say, I know a lot of people think we should have remote town meeting. It wouldn't be town meeting, it would be something else. There definitely are concerns at this point. There's no available technology to ensure that the person on the other end is the person they say they are. So that's the big thing, vote security right now. Also, probably everybody who's been to town meeting can think of a time when you came in, you thought what you were gonna, you knew how you were gonna vote, but then somebody out of the blue comes up and makes a comment. You're like, oh, I think I've changed my mind. And if you don't have that, that's everyone's opportunity, because once you walk in the door and you're a legislator, every vote is equal, nobody's vote counts for more, and everybody has the opportunity to change your mind, or you to change somebody else's mind, which I think is one of the best things about town meeting, and then changing it so that it would be online, or would have 200 people on Zoom and 300 people in the room. It just feels unwieldy, and you'd miss that part of the process. And I get that it's not always easy, but we try to make it as easy as possible. You can call and get a ride. I understand that navigating the high school is not always the easiest for a lot of folks. And I don't know if we can have a easier check-in route, I don't know. But hopefully that's your most difficult part. There's preferential seating and wheelchair spots available right as you come in the auditorium. We do have the talk to text, so you can read some of it's comical because it is automated, but mostly you get the idea, and I think that helps a lot of people. I'm trying to think of the other accommodations that we have. But if anybody can think of any accommodation that you don't have that we could do, I am absolutely interested in hearing that. I definitely want as many folks as possible to be able to participate and feel like it's your meeting, because it is your meeting. And I think that covers what I had. Oh, question, yep.
Based on what you just said, I know there are handicap spaces, but there are not senior spaces. And last year, I needed to park at the junior high and walk all the way. Well, no, there was a bus. And eventually the bus came by and I caught the bus. But it's really far. And I felt like I can't be the only person who, I didn't want to go back the next night because there wasn't going to be a place for me to park.
Well, sadly, the next night there were a lot less people. And that was unusual. But that's an idea. Maybe we could, indicate. I don't know what that would take, but we'll throw it in the hopper and see if we can have some more closer down, because yeah, that is kind of a hike from some of the spots. So, thanks. Yes.
How do you decide if you're going to use the clicker or you're going to use the voice vote?
For items, how do I decide if I'm going to use the clicker or the voice? For items that are that we do every year, like the consent agenda, or I don't know, some of the things that are very simple. But if it's a 2/3, I'm going to call for the clickers, because then there's no question. And if it seems like it's going to be tight, or it's because the chart shows right away, what, so that there's no question in people's minds what the margin is. And I like to use the clickers more, but if it's going to be obvious, everyone's going to vote for it, and we'll just do that. And I will say, sometimes when people call for the clicker after I've called for the voice vote, it sounds different to me than it sounds to you over there where all the people are yelling, and over there where all the people are quiet. But I don't care. We'll use the clickers. And I'm sure we'll have Q&A time after.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Moderator. And just following on the town meeting theme, I wanted to give folks a preview. We have been preparing the warrant. Here's what it looks like. We'll be sending it through the mail to everyone's household the second week of April at some point. It'll also be posted online, so if you find it easier to look at it that way, you can look at it that way. We had actually discussed the idea of sending out just a one-page summary of the warrant and then saying if you want to read the rest, you can get it here or there. But the board said, no, let's send it out to everybody. There's enough reasons for people to not go to town meeting. We don't want to make another one. So we're sending out the whole booklet, and I'm looking forward to having you all check it out. And if you have any questions, let me know. But right now, and it could change, but we have 40 articles as of this very moment. And most of them are articles we see every year, but a couple notable ones that I wanted to mention that you can learn more about as we get closer to town meeting. We are proposing to build a new public works building on Forest Road, where the current one is. You've heard about this before. I think we've talked about it. I think there's a presentation here coming up next month that I encourage you to check out. But that needs to get town meeting approval, and it needs to get approval at the ballot, which, again, the election is actually the week before town meeting. So that project will be on the warrant. And other sort of newer items, there's some work being done related to the libraries and trying to resolve some concerns in the community about how the governance of the two libraries work together. And so that is an article that will try to address that. That'll be at town meeting. We have some, everything else is your normal budget and capital projects. We have a lot of exciting capital projects, which we've talked about before, and I can go into detail if anybody's interested, but I'd encourage you to check it out. We also have some zoning, new zoning bylaws that the planning staff and the planning board have been working very hard on. One is related to open space residential development. Does anyone know what that means? It's basically looking at the way subdivisions are allowed by right and looking at how much open space developers are required to set aside and changing the rules to make it, to incentivize more open space. And that's a very simplistic way to describe it, but if you want to learn more, we have a lot of information on our website, and I can connect you with our planning staff to get more details. There's also going to be a bylaw proposal for leaf blower control. So we can ask the moderator which night she wants to take that on. But we expect that to generate some interest. Many communities have done that. Some communities have done that, I guess I should say, where they restrict the use of leaf blowers that are gas powered. And so there's a proposal that will be brought to town meeting that does that here in Acton. And it's not, not immediately, it would be phased in based on what the bylaw proposal outlines. Other things, I think everything else, are things that you would normally see, but it's going to be a good meeting because there'll be a lot of interesting discussion. We are asking for approval to sell the parking lot on School Street. I mentioned earlier that 3 School Street is for sale. That parking lot that's just next to it, kind of across from Exchange Hall. We're trying to sell those as a package because we figure that anyone that wanted to buy that little fire station, they've always said, yeah, I'd love to put my coffee shop there or my artist loft there, but I can't, there's not even a place to park. And we believe that there's an opportunity to combine those 2 parcels, and maybe someone will come up with a creative proposal. We already have permission from town meeting to sell the little fire station, but we need additional permission from town meeting to sell the little parking lot. So that'll be on the warrant as well. And then who knows what'll come up in the next few weeks, but that's what we have as of right now. I would love the opportunity to take questions from folks, or if you heard anything on Facebook that you think is strange and you want me to verify, I'm happy to do that too. Yes?
Getting back to the leaf blowing which is excellent. Is there something about that you can or cannot blow leaves out in the street and leave them out there? Because I know people that have done that.
The question, and I'll just repeat the question for the viewing audience at home. is the bylaw proposal have anything to do with not allowing people to blow their leaves onto the street? The answer to that is no. This is strictly related to the use of gas-powered leaf blowers and restricting that.
But is there something about
Is there something, you're not supposed to put things in the right-of-way. You know, you're not supposed to do that, so you're technically,
the answer is no, you're not supposed to?
you're not supposed to do that, I guess is the short answer.
Who's supposed to pick it up?
If you don't have woods in the back, you have to get it taken away by a company, or I'm not sure. I'm happy to talk to you about that afterwards if you have specific questions.
No, I've seen professional companies come and blow it out into the street.
Well, that's not good practice. You should let us know. I'll come down there and talk to them. Yes, any other questions? Yes.
I think it was 2 years ago, we were talking about zoning an area where the gun people wanted to put a building in. What is the status of that?
The question is about zoning an area near where the gun people want to. I'm not sure. I'm trying to think. We did pass a zoning bylaw last year, I think it was, or maybe the year before, to identify specific areas where gun sales would be allowed, and so that was approved, and the zoning map now has an overlay that says sellers of firearms are allowed in these specific areas. So that's on the books.
Has the gang come? I mean,
There's no gang. No. I think we have. We may have one firearms seller in town. There was one there is one, and it's in that zone. But I think you're referring to a big group of gun sellers that were in Littleton a few years ago. That hasn't. Those folks haven't all come here, if that's what you're wondering.
They were discouraged by all the controls that we were having,
Maybe, yeah.
which is a good thing.
Right. I think the people in town decide what the zoning should be, whether it's an issue like that or whether it's an issue of how much parking should you allow near the street. Like we have restaurants in town that have a parcel this big, and they want to have parking closer to the street because you need parking to sell plates at a restaurant, right? And our zoning says you can't have it within so many feet of a street, so many feet of that, and so they're restricted in certain areas from that. So the zoning that we have was thoughtfully made, but every few years we need to continue to look at it and make sure that it's meeting the needs of our community, not just the residents, but the businesses. I think and I've said this before, and I'm really excited to announce now that we have a new economic development director starting on April 7th. And one of the things that she'll be working on is finding ways to encourage businesses to stay here. We have really cool businesses like Sparks Hockey Sharpener right here, right there, who's a national company that started right here in Acton, and they sell hockey sharpeners to NHL and college hockey teams and high school teams and hockey dads all over the country. And we want businesses like that to stay here. And we need to make opportunities for business to grow here and then to relocate here. And so we're going to be working a lot on that in the next few years because the businesses in the community are really what make up, as people drive through a community, they notice beautiful old homes, which we have a lot of, and they notice a lot of things. But the businesses that we have are how people identify with the community. And we're fortunate. We have some pretty cool businesses in a few different villages in town, and we want to keep that, and we want to allow that to grow. Yes, a question in the back there.
Yes, it seems like an opportune time to ask this question. I live in an apartment complex that has a fire pit, and when we were having, high wind warnings, people were not only putting in building materials for the fire, but they were also cooking. And so someone in the complex called the fire department, and someone came out and they said, well, when you're finished cooking, you can put out the fire. But then they kept on cooking for about 3 hours. So I guess it's a twofold question. What are you allowed to burn? And two, what are other residents supposed to do if that fire, I understand people have to cook, but they also have kitchens to cook in.
So we have a very specific question about a very specific case. But we're fortunate to have our fire chief right here in the audience.
I gotta run. Yeah, open burning laws are pretty specific as to what you can, when you can, and that you need a permit to burn. Burning pits have always been sort of on the fringe of what you can do. First of all, burning season, does anyone know what the burning season is? It's January 15 to May 1. And in order to burn, you need to have a permit. And that permit spells out the rules. You have to activate your permit each day that you want to burn. You have to check the weather to make sure it's not too windy. You have to be 75 feet from a structure. You have to burn only clean materials. You're not allowed to burn any building materials. And you can't clear land for the purpose of burning. So there's a lot of specific rules that are all laid out. If you go to acton.firepermits.com, all the rules are listed there. Or if you need a copy, let me know. I'll be happy to give everyone a copy. The one exception to burning is cooking. What's cooking? Is a marshmallow cooking? Is a hot dog cooking? Same rules apply as far as what type of wood you're burning. But there is an exception in the law that allows you to use an open fire for cooking. And it gets a little fuzzy there. If you have a question and you need to give us a call, we'll send someone down to come and evaluate for you. And we're open 24/7, 365. The open burning, as far as getting rid of materials in your yard and stuff like that, you can only burn between the hours of 10 and 4. It has to be out by 4. There's another little exclusion in there too. If it's a nuisance to somebody in the area, it has to be extinguished. So if it becomes a nuisance, call us. We'll evaluate it and have them put it out. And that's another sort of gray area where we have to use a little bit of judgment. But there are very specific rules on burning.
So if this fire pit is only about 20 feet from a building that people are living in, is that still allowed to? No.
It's supposed to be 75 feet from a structure.
So in other words, that fire pit is actually against the rules?
Yeah, we'll have to talk further about that specific case.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you. Other questions? Yes.
I have two questions. One is on Powder Mill Road. What is that building that's under construction?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. That's a 230-unit apartment complex called the Apartments at Powder Mill. If you remember, there was an old industrial building there, and it used to be paved all the way almost to the river. And the Dolbin Company is building 230 apartments. 25% will be affordable, so it'll be a real good opportunity for people to live here or downsize there or whatever. It's just additional housing stock. It also restores a lot of the riverfront, which is a cool benefit. Even though it's a big construction project, it's actually improving the environmental disturbance over in that area. So thank you for that question. I should have mentioned that.
And then my other question is there any update on the medical insurance for municipal retirees? They were going to be changing it, they thought, maybe at the end of 2025.
Yeah, thank you. So the question is about health insurance for retirees, for town and school employees. We have been going through some transitions in health insurance, and none of it's been good for anyone. I'm sorry to report. We just got a 14.98% increase for active employees. I don't know what the increase is for retirees, but I'm sure it's not going to be good news either. Sorry to report. The industry is just upside down. I don't know, I'll do what I can to fix it, but I think other people need to get involved, and hopefully they will. We're also looking at another double-digit increase next year. In terms of the plans that our retirees have, for many years they are on a Blue Cross type of plan, and then in 2023 or so, they switched to Aetna to save money, and it saved us money for a year, but now it's just as expensive. And we're trying to transition back to the Blue Cross program, but because of the way that retirees do it on the calendar year and active employees do it on the fiscal year, we had to interrupt it a little bit. The plan is still to do it January 1st. And I'd encourage you to follow up with HR if you have specific questions about that, but thank you for the question.
Thank you.
Yes.
During your talk, you mentioned several times that new employees have been added to the town. I mean, how many new employees have been added?
Thank you for the question. So for the town organization, I've been here for 6 years, and we've basically entirely transformed the way that we provide services and brought in several new positions through the years. But very few of those positions were incrementally adding to our headcount. Because what we do is that we take a position when someone retires, we say, all right, that person used to do this, but now that they're not here anymore, what we really need is someone that does this. And if we have 2 or 3 people that leave, we can turn 3 jobs into 2 or 2.5. And we've done that every year. And that's how we've been able to keep our head count down. We've added two FTEs in the last few years, a sustainability director and a DEI director. We're proposing to add a firefighter this year and a police lieutenant. So that's 2 more. But we're also proposing to add the fire prevention officer from revolving funds, so that it's not paid for by the tax base. It's paid for by fees that that person would be responsible for generating. Fire permits, other things that they need to do would all generate revenue that would then pay for the position, which is how many communities do it. We just haven't done it. So the short answer to your question is we're adding 2 FTEs this year. But the longer answer to your question is that we've added several positions in the last few years with a very small incremental headcount increase because of reorganizations. Do you want more? You want more?
What's the net? I mean, you say...
2 this year.
You said there are only 2 additional town employees?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they want to...
Thank you. And just to give you another example, and I know you didn't ask for one, but I'll do it anyways. We have the senior center, Sharon and the team, and then nursing and community services and veteran services. They're now part of a health and human services department. For many years, we've talked about a need for a department head to oversee health and human services. That's a new high-level position, right? We know we've needed it for a long time, and we just kept saying, no, we can't. When the health director retired, Cheryl Ball, who we all loved, she's still around, but she just doesn't work here anymore. When she retired, we said, all right, now we have an opportunity. Instead of hiring a health director, let's create a department head for the Health and Human Services Department and bring them in, and then we'll reorganize everyone else around them. And that's exactly what we did. So now we have we achieved the goal of a better organizational structure without adding a new position. And it's working out pretty well. Sharon it's working out pretty well. Penny, the person we hired is named Penny. She's been here before. She's the Health and Human Services Director, more or less. And she helps everyone. And it's going well. So thank you for the question. Yes?
Can you just briefly, the Public Works project?
Yes.
I heard some things about it, but I'm interested in the funding for that. Is that going to end up being something that leads to another override vote because of the expense of the Public Works building?
Thank you for the question. The question is about the DPW building and how we're going to pay for it. So the DPW building is a $35 to $40 million project. And we're getting a cost estimate on the 26th of this month, and we'll know exactly where we're looking at. Right now, we know it's in that range. That is more than we have available. So in order to pay for a project like that, we do need to ask the voters to approve a debt exclusion. A debt exclusion is authority for the town to collect additional revenue through taxes for the life of the project, which would, in this case, would be 30 years. So for 30 years, the town residents would pay for that project, and then afterwards, it would fall off and it would just go away. That's what a debt. It's different than an override, because an override, like we had last year, it says, all right, we need to increase our taxes by $6 million, whatever it was. Once we do that, our taxes go up $6 million, and it's up forever. And the baseline is just higher, and we needed it, and we appreciate the support from the residents to make that happen. But a debt exclusion is different because it doesn't go up forever, it just goes up for the life of the loan. So what does that cost to an average taxpayer? We're looking at the average condo to be in the range of under $200 a year over those 30 years. Well, for the first few. I don't know what it's going to be like 30 years from now. But for now, it looks like $200 a year. And then for the average single-family home, it's $700 or $800. And so that's a significant cost. We understand that. But the thing about the Public Works Department and the Public Works building is that it's not an optional service. It's not something that we can just say, yeah, you know what? Let's just not do it. You know, and we could say, let's not build them a new building. We certainly could say that. But they're operating now in a building that hasn't been adequate for the size of the operation that we have for decades. And like they always do, they put their heads down and they get the work done. But we're at a point now where it's not just inadequate, it's unsafe. And so something has to be done to address that building. So we can do an addition to it and spend millions and millions of dollars on an addition and still have a building that's too small and still needs to be, it's more of a Band-Aid. Or we could say, all right, Public Works is going to be here for the next 150, 250, so a long time. We need a new building that's going to last us at least 60 or 70 years to chip away at that. Because we're not always planning for right now. We're planning for the future. We're in this for the long run. I may not be the town manager here forever, but the town is going to be running forever, right? And we're going to need Public Works forever. So if we spend $35 to $40 million now, we pay for it over the next 30 years, so the residents that are here would incur the cost for that, and then it'll be around for hopefully another 30 or 40 years after that. And it's an investment that you all have been here for a long time. You have made investments like that in this community throughout, you know, every decade or so, there's a big building project like this. Whether it's a school or a fire station or the public safety facility, these are all investments that residents get together and make to have the community function the way it wants to for the future. And we certainly could say, no, we don't want to do that. But then 5 years from now, or whenever it comes back, the residents at that time will have to pay for it. And a $35 to $45 million project will be $55 to $60 million. And so over the 30 years, they could have been having a $200 increase on their taxes. It'll be doubled just by waiting 3 years. And that's not perfect math, but that's the idea of some of the costs of waiting. Could we make the building smaller? We have. The town did a feasibility study in 2022 or so, and a Public Works Building Committee recommended a building of a certain size. And we went to town meeting in 2023. Our moderator was there. Many of you were probably there. And we said, all right, the feasibility study was completed. We need $1.225 million to design this Public Works building that the community needs. And the voters at that meeting voted for it. It needed 2/3 vote because it was borrowing, and they all supported it, or 2/3 of them did anyways. And so we said, okay, town meeting wants us to build this building that we showed them, and we have the $1.25 million. So we spent the last year and a half designing that building, and now we're coming back to town meeting and saying, here's the building that you asked us to design. Are you okay with us now building it and borrowing the money and paying for it? So that's the process that we went through. The town meeting approved the design that we brought forward, and the Finance Committee has been strong advocates for the taxpayers, as they're supposed to be, and they've worked very hard to make sure that the building that we're bringing forward has every cost efficiency available to it, and they want more than that actually, but we've done significant value engineering to the project to get it. It was in the 40 millions. It was in the mid 40s before, and we made several changes to it, squeezing it a little bit, taking some components of it and deferring them, changing some of the materials, all things to reduce the cost of it. So now we're hoping that the cost estimate we get on the 26th will be a better number. And so that's what we'll bring forward to town meeting. And I look forward to other questions about that. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and you mentioned the April 29th.
Oh, yeah, sorry. So the mechanic,
Is that
yeah.
on there? And
Yeah.
what happens with that?
So the mechanics of it are, a debt exclusion project requires a vote at the ballot, so it's a ballot question, and then you need to also have town meeting vote 2/3 to support it. So just like the fire station and the school project that we've done in the last 5 years, that might have been 6 years ago at this point, the ballot will have a question. It'll say, question 1, do you, something along the lines of, do you support debt exclusion for the construction of a new public works building? And then if more than half the people say yes, then it's been approved for that step. It still needs the second step of going to town meeting, and town meeting will say, we have a project, it's going to cost X, it's going to look like this, and if 2/3 of the people approve it there, then we'll finish the design, start the construction, and then probably in 2027 or maybe even 2028, it'll be added to the tax base, or the debt exclusion will kick in. We're not going to start borrowing, we're not going to start collecting the revenue right away, because we wouldn't start borrowing the money right away. Yes?
How many of these exclusions do we have now?
Well, we have the one for the public safety facility, we just paid off last year or this year. We have a junior high building, actually is just ending. So on the books currently, we have the new Boardwalk campus, the twin school, and then we have the fire station in North Acton. And those are the most recent ones. And there might be some smaller school projects from 10 or 15 years ago that we're still paying for. Yes?
Going on that line, are there any debt that is going to be paid off in the near term?
Yeah, so the junior/senior high school building, I think it was the McCarthy Town, it was before my time. I don't know exactly what it was called, but that debt is ending this year. So
I'm talking the next few years.
I don't have that with me, but we have a debt schedule to see when things are falling off. And the answer is yes. They eventually, in that 30-year period, certainly, all the projects that are on the books right now will fall off and go down, but some maybe even sooner. It helps, yeah. So, and as an organization, we look at that. And one of the things that the Finance Committee said all along was, we shouldn't be taking on a new debt until one of these projects falls off. And fortunately, one of them is falling off this year. And falling off just means we got to the end of the payment, and the revenue goes down a little bit. What we're proposing is to bring it back up, but it doesn't go back up as high because of it falling off. None of these things are really exciting to all of you. I understand that as taxpayers. I know I live in Westford, we have debt exclusion projects too, and I understand personally what it means to me in my community to have a project like we're doing our library over. And that's something that, my kids don't go to library as much as they used to, and they should probably. I don't go to library as much as I probably should, but I know it's important to my community to have a really good library and a really nice library, so I'll be paying for that for the next 30 years, and I'm okay with it.
Question I have is, can the Community Preservation Act have a contribution in any way to this project?
The question was, can the CPA funds that we collect every year go towards this project? The answer is most likely not. The CPA funds can only be used for affordable housing, open space, historic preservation, and recreation. And I don't think any of those categories work. But there are other revenue sources that we can use to fund this. One of them is energy efficiency funding. We have a lot of that. We get a lot of that, and we get grants. And there's a lot of things changing at the federal government right now, but we do believe that the IRA, which is the Investment Reduction Act, direct tax payments would still be available to us in this project. The school district, they did geothermal wells for the big school project. They just got a check for $1 million from that program. And so I don't know what we're going to get, but we will get significant rebates on some of the energy efficiency improvements that we're going to add to the project. Yes?
You spoke of reorganization
organizing things regarding our fire stations, it sounds like we have a potential of 2 empty buildings if this works out. That gives town space. Is that being considered at all in terms of repurposing empty fire stations that we currently own as opposed to vast new building in, as far as a public works department goes?
Yeah, thank you for the question. The question was, if it turns out that we don't need all the fire stations that we have, could we use one of them, for example, to help with the storage and the space needs that we have for our Department of Public Works? That's a good question. I think it is a few steps to that would have to be sorted out, but I think just on its face, they're too small. I think we could potentially use one of them for the mechanics, but not even, because they need a lot more ceiling height. We also need to determine if that's going to happen. I think the select board, the town, the fire chief hasn't made any decisions about changing the use of our fire stations. We've just done this pilot program to see if it might work. But if it does, and even if, let's say, one of the stations became vacant, the sites aren't very big, and our DPW equipment is. And so while we can fit 1 or 2 fire trucks in those, we have dozens of these DPW trucks. So I think it would be an example of something we could do on the short term, but it certainly wouldn't be a long-term solution. But we appreciate the idea. Because again, we're looking for the long-term solution for this community. We could lease space for 5 or 6 years too. I mean, there's space up in North Acton near the Echo and Deck House. Near there's big warehouses there that we can rent for a very high cost for a few years, but that's not a permanent solution. I mean, because something like that would take commercial space off the market and lose the opportunity for a business to be there, and also it'd only be as good as we can be there. We need to have a space that the town has for its operations, and we'll do everything we can to keep the costs down. And if we end up not needing a building that we have, we'll identify how to best reuse it. And if there is no good reuse plan, we would sell it, just like we're trying to do with some of the older ones, to get that back on the tax rolls, to reduce our costs, and to spread out the cost of running the town. Thank you for the question. Any over here? Yes.
2 things. I went and saw that town hall, the DPW day, and saw the video, which was very informative, and saw where they're working. And I was shocked. I mean, it looked like they jury rigged a 2nd floor. I don't know if that was really there or not, but it looked like it had been, created with a couple of 2x4s and a couple of nails. And down below, somebody had a beautiful, very expensive computer with all this gradu falling down on it all the time. I can't imagine trying to work on a computer in an unheated building with the machines, and they have to come in a very specific order and go out in a very specific order. So, yeah, nobody wants to pay for more, but I thought they really needed a good space. They need a space where they can get out and take care of things in an appropriate and efficient manner, and a place to work where you're heated and you're not having crap falling down on the computer and all that good stuff. So that's number 1.
Okay.
Number 2 is completely different.
Okay.
And you would probably enjoy this with all of them. Do we have any new interest in either side of the new Stop and Shop? I know you sounded like you thought people were going to be going into those new spaces.
Yeah, so there were 2 questions. One was about the Public Works building, which I'll get back to in a second. The second was, do we know what's going to go into the 2 retail locations in the new Stop and Shop? I talked to the Stop and Shop realtor within the last month, and they've had a lot of people get pretty far along the line and then change their mind. So I think eventually they'll land a couple really good things there. I don't know what it's going to be, but you can imagine what it'll be. It'll be something that you see next to grocery stores in other communities. But if you have an idea, or if you know someone that has a business that you think would be good there, let me know, and we can put them in touch with the Stop and Shop people. They're they're open to anything. And the McDonald's, which might be a question that follows this, same answer. I just drove by to get here, and there's a lot going on in front of it. So anyone that wants to start a business is going to look at that and be like, whoa, no. But 6 months from now, a year from now, it's going to look a lot different, and I think it'll be easier for that to be something, which we all want it to be. Yes?
Public works space surrounding towns, Maynard, Concord, is there anybody who can maybe have a soft contact with these towns, comparing, say, population base and their problems along the same line? It may take a little bit of effort to, well, any surrounding community. How do they do it? Or is our need for that space somewhat excessive relative to other communities? Somebody can say, oh boy, they're all building new space, they all have new equipment, so they all need, it's been a common problem, or just a relative comparison, you know, so that we can, whoever it is in charge will spend some time and hours to investigate how do others do it, rather than we have to solve all our problems in that respect.
Thank you for that comment. We do spend extensive time looking at how the best practices for how to run a public works office and public works department. The needs that we have in this community and the services that we provide are more than a lot of other communities, and some of those communities have newer and bigger facilities than we have. I think that, again, I live in Westford. We have a 56,000 square foot highway department. And we have, I think in Westford, we have less roads and certainly less sidewalks. Just, that's not the whole story, but I think we've looked at other communities, how they do it. And a lot of highway departments were built in the 50s and 60s, and a lot of them are being replaced right now because they're not sufficiently sized. If you look at the size of our community when that building was built, and you look at the size of it now, in people, but also in infrastructure. Residents every day ask us for more sidewalks and for more wider bike lines, wider roads, more fog lines. Oh, she left. Fog lines on roads. There's things that our public works, the demands for services have increased, and they need a space to operate out of. And could we, I mean, if you look at towns around us, I think they all do things differently, but the way we do things here and the services that our residents ask of us, we need a modern facility. Because as mentioned, our team, they'll make things work, and they have, but they're at a breaking point. They cannot continue to operate out of that safely. For personal safety, for efficiency, all the things that we would want for our employees, because we value our employees, and we want to keep people here, we want to attract people to come here, and if they see those working conditions at the job interview, they're just going to turn around and leave, because forget if you're a woman, there's barely a locker room or a bathroom. So there's things about that facility that just aren't working. And as I said, they looked at doing an addition and a renovation, and the amount of work that we were required to redo everything, it just wasn't cost effective to renovate. And looking at other towns is something that the Finance Committee has actually done a lot of as well. And it's a good practice. So thank you for the question. Yes?
What's the status of the food pantry in Acton that's moving in? I don't remember the name of the street.
So the schools, the Maple Street, the little building next to the train tracks that used to be Gordon Richards Concrete Form Company, we own that. We bought that for the parking lot, and we sell spaces to commuters. But the food pantry is now leasing that space from us for a good price, and they're gonna, I think, do $1 million renovation, or very expensive renovation to get that place looking as functioning as a state-of-the-art food pantry with very accessible and easy to use, and they're going to start construction at some point this calendar year, and I think hope to be operating within a year out of that building. But the lease is all locked in. We've moved all of our stuff out. And the ambulance company that used to run out of there, they moved out. So it's ready for them to go. They're just getting sort of their building design, and I think they're doing some fundraising. And it'll be a really important new resource for people in the community that need help with food. I mean, right now they have to drive to Boxborough and deal with that strange parking lot there. This will be a much easier system for people. So thank you for that question. Well, thank you all for hanging on. I think we went long. I appreciate you being here, and thank you to ActonTV, thank you to Sharon and the team here, and we'll see you all next month.